Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices by His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayed Sadiq Shirazi Hafadullah. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me as always Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, khair.
MashaAllah. Sheikhna, our last discussion was in regards to Salah and prayer. Let's kick off this discussion on Qadha prayers and what is considered to be Qadha. What is Qadha prayer?
Inshallah. A'udhu billah as-sami' al-alim min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Initially, the Salah itself is the pillar of faith and religion. As-salat amud ad-din. And the importance of Salah is so much emphasized in the hadith and narration that the shafa'ah of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam would rely on the one who offers the prayers. Without the prayers, there's no shafa'ah. لا تنال شفاعتنا مستخف بصلاته. The one who takes the Salah lightly and doesn't praise often on time, and he doesn't actually pray the Salah as prescribed, then he may not get the shafa'ah. So that's important, that the Salah we don't really let her off and allow it to become qadha and try to make it up later, especially with intention, deliberate letting off the Salah to become qadha. And that's of course by itself is a sin, that I don't wake up for the Salat al-Fajr intentionally. I know that I'm not going to wake up because I'm sleeping at 3 o'clock at night after watching, I don't know, movies or football matches and so forth. And I just leave the Salah to become qadha and then make it up later. However, there's there's some issues with regard to the one who wants to offer the Salah qadha. Initially, there's a hadith عن Abi Ja'far al-Baqir alayhi salam with regard to what can be done as qadha and what we have to leave aside. He says, لا تعاد الصلاة إلا من خمس. There are 5 things in which you have to make the Salah up again later and do the qadha. Otherwise, the rest you don't need. Number 1, at-tahur, which means the wudu. You must have wudu in order to be able to perform the Salah. Otherwise, without tahara, without having the wudu, you cannot start the prayers. Now, intentionally or unintentionally. In both cases, the Salah is batil. There's no way you can offer the Salah without having the right means of wudu and the means of tahur. So that's not the first condition.
So what you're saying is that if you prayed Salah, but for some reason later on you discovered that, oh, I didn't have wudu, I wasn't tahir, so you can pray qadha prayer for that prayer. That's okay.
Of course, you have to do wudu and then pray either ada inside the time, if you can catch with the time. Otherwise, you have to pray qadha because you missed one of the most important conditions of Salah, and that is purity and tahara, and that is wudu, in other words, or tayammum if you can't do wudu. So that's the main important, the first one. The second, al-qibla. The Imam says, Salaamullah alayhi, al-qibla, that you must make sure you pray towards the qibla and not the opposite side. Again, if you pray opposite side, then and even intentionally to the right or the left side, intentionally, then the Salah is batil. You have to pray towards the qibla as prescribed. So in this case, either you repeat the Salah inside the time or you do the qadha make up later. The third one is the ruku'. As mentioned previously in the previous seasons, that the ruku' is rukun.
Yes.
that you must fulfill, and you cannot add 2 ruku', in other words. Otherwise, the salah will be batil. Or if you don't do the ruku' by itself, the salah is batil. So anything added or subtracted from the salah with regard to the ruku', the salah is batil. Was-sujood, the Imam says, alayhi salam. Again, the 2 sajdah counted as rukun and the main elements. If you miss the 2 sajdah for any reason, the salah is batil, and you have to again do the ada inside the time, or qada, and make it up later. Of course, in another narration, it mentions the other 3 conditions: at-takbira wal-niyya wal-qiyam.
Yes, that's part of the rukn. Yes.
Allahu Akbar. To open the salah, you must say Allahu Akbar, otherwise you cannot enter the salah without takbiratul ihram. So that's also a rukun and main element of the salah. And intention, niyyah, of course, you must make the intention that this is a salah seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. So important as well. And qiyam before, when you stand in the salah, you must be upright and perform the salah, the alhamd, the surah, and so forth. These are the arkan, or the main elements, as mentioned previously in previous seasons. So these are the most important aspects in which, if they were not fulfilled and performed in the salah, you must repeat the salah either inside the time or qada, by making up the salah later afterwards. With regard to your question about the qada, if the one does not perform the salah as prescribed in its time, let's say Salatul Fajr, between the dawn and the sunrise, if you don't pray between this time, just before the sunrise, then the salah becomes qada. In other words, you missed the timetable, you missed the time prescribed for the salah, then you have to do the qada afterwards.
It's like an IOU.
Exactly. You have to, pay back in somehow this salah, and either ada or qada, and somehow you must perform the salah. You cannot run away just because you didn't do it, then khalas, just ignore it and just walk away with it. And of course, even if somebody, let's say he works at night and he comes back in the early morning, he sleeps all day till the evening, and he misses Salat al-Dhuhr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha, let's say. So the Dhuhr Asr is missed, now is qada. Maghrib Isha, he can pray it during the night, that's fine. In this case, he must pray qada, Dhuhr and Asr. Also, he slept, he couldn't wake up for any reason, extremely tired, but he must make it up. There's no way he can run away from it. So qada is there in order to fulfill this obligatory act which you missed inside its time. Of course, with regard to the qada, there are 2 exceptions for those who do not require to do the qada and to make it up later. It's mainly for the woman. The woman who is in her monthly cycle, whatever the days are, she doesn't need to do the qada afterwards. She's exempted from the qada of the salah. And the one who gives birth, the minute she gives birth, those few days afterwards, in which she is in her state, after giving birth, she doesn't have to do the qada later on and make it up. So 2 exemptions and exceptions for women in which they don't need the qada.
Ahsant, mashallah. Shaykhna, in what order should we pray the salah?
In terms of the salah order, if we missed one salah, then we just have to do it straight away whenever we can. Let's say if I miss Salat al-Subh, if I wake up in the morning, let's say 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, I go to the washroom and do the wudu and straight pray the missed prayer. Otherwise, I have time during the day after or before Salatul Dhuhr and Asr, you know, the time is open, but the sooner the better to make up the missed Salah. However, if somebody has many days of Salah in which needs to be performed as Qadha, they can either start from the early morning Salah, which is the Salat al-Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr and Maghrib, Isha, or the recommended one, which is the best and the better, is to start from Dhuhr and Asr Salah. So let's say you have 3 days of Salah you missed, you couldn't pray. So you begin from Dhuhr, Asr of that day, Maghrib, Isha of that day, and then the morning, Fajr, and so on. So the second option is the best option.
I believe it's because the first prayer that was mandatory upon the Muslims was the Dhuhr prayer. So I think that's why it is recommended to start with Dhuhr rather than start with Fajr, which is more of our daily routine. Shaykhna, I'm an individual that has Qadha prayers and it is time for Dhuhr and Asr. Which Salah takes precedent, as in like which is more important for me to fulfill? The prayer of the time or the Qadha prayer?
Well, initially, it is not mandatory to begin first the Salah which you missed. Let's say you missed a couple of Salah sessions, Salah, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, and so forth, and you want to start now Maghrib, Isha. It's not compulsory that you must first do the Qadha of these two prayers and then engage with yourself with the current Salah, which is now Adhan, Maghrib and Isha, for example. However, if you missed, let's say, Salat Fajr, Subh, and now you want to pray Salat al-Dhuhr and Asr, some ulama would emphasize on the fact that you must first pray Salat al-Fajr Qadha, and then you start with your current Salah, which is Dhuhr Asr, for example. However, the Sayyid, he says that as a mustahab precaution, that you first start with the Fajr Qadha first, you do the one you missed today, for today of course, and then you start with the Dhuhr Asr. And likewise, if you missed Dhuhr Asr Salah, and you want to start Maghrib Isha, which is now the Adhan was called for Maghrib and Isha, it's better to first do the Qadha of Dhuhr Asr first, and then you engage yourself with the Ada of Dhuhr Asr, Maghrib and Isha Salah. So it's not, according to Sayyid's opinion, that you must first pray the Qadha and then begin with the current Salah. No, it's your choice. You can start first, pray the Salat al-Dhuhr Asr, and then after Salat al-Asr, you do tasbihat, dhikr, and so forth, and then you start the Qadha of the morning prayer after Dhuhr Asr. That's fine, no issue with it.
Ahsant. And I think it would be wise even to maybe come a little bit earlier before the Adhan and do your Qadha prayers, and then by the time you finish, the Adhan would have happened and you can go straight into the prayer of the time. Shaykhna, Qadha prayers are wajib, and it is mustahab to do prayers in congregation as well. Can we do Qadha prayers in congregation?
With regard to the Qadha Salah with the Jama'ah, yes, you're allowed to pray in Jama'ah any Salah of Qadha, even to an extent that you can pray behind the Imam, who, you know, the leader in the prayers, who is praying and leading the people towards, let's say, the Salat al-Dhuhr al-Asr, which is the current Salah now. You can start with the Imam by praying Qadha of Salat al-Fajr, for example. That's fine. You pray with him as Jama'ah, 2 rak'ah, and then you end up and you leave. And they continue and resume praying Salat al-Dhuhr al-Asr. Or if you have Salat al-Dhuhr al-Asr Qadha for, let's say, for some time, and you want to today pray it as a Jama'ah behind this Imam, that's fine. So you make the intention of Qadha, and the Imam is praying as Ada. That's fine, no worries. You can pray it in Qadha, the Qadha in Jama'ah, whether the Imam is praying with the intention of Qadha or without.
Shaykhna, what happens with an individual who is deceased and has qadha prayers. Now, I've heard sometimes it's the responsibility of the children. Is there any truth in that?
The salat of qadha is wajib upon the elder son when the parents pass away. So if let's say the father passes away and the father was not a person who did not deliberately abandon the salah. He used to pray, he used to do fasting, hajj and so forth, but he died while he had some qadha leftovers. He couldn't perform them because he was ill, for example, to do the qadha and make it up. In this case, it becomes wajib on the elder son to either himself pray the qadha many days or many weeks or even years, or to hire somebody else, pay them, and they would actually pray the qadha on behalf of his dead father, for example. So you've got two cases now, I mean, two options, in other words, they can choose from. So yes, it is wajib on the elder son. He must pray the qadha. And of course, as I've said, in the case of the parents were religious, if the parents were not religious, they were secular, for example. The mother, she wasn't had any hijab, for example. The father never prayed in his life. Then there is no need for the elder son to do the qadha of 30, 40 years of his fathers who never prayed. No. SubhanAllah, we have this issue that, you know, some families, the parents are not religious, but the sons and the grandsons are all religious. They never shave, they never, for example, drink, na'udhu billah. And that's something shows that, you know, generations come later, they could be even better than their parents in some cases. And that's due to the environment, the education, and depends on the place they meet, in the Islamic Center, for example, Husseiniya, the mosque. These all have the influence of changing people's perception and notions towards faith and religion.
Shaykhna, you mentioned that, you know, we could hire someone to you know, perform the qadha prayers. Is it possible also to get someone to volunteer to do ziyarah or hajj or umrah or anything like that? Mustahab acts.
Yes, it is permissible. You're allowed to either yourself or hire somebody to go and to do the ziyarah. And some of the imams, alayhim salam, they used to, you know, send some of their companions to go to Karbala and do the ziyarah on behalf of them, the Imam alayhim salam. And the ziyarah is counted as a mustahab, and the rewards goes back to either the one who's alive, as the Imam did. He sent his one of his companions to go to Karbala and to ask Allah for his illness to be cured. Although he was the Imam, but the Imam was to encourage and teach the Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that to go to there and ask Allah with their hawa'ij and needs. And of course, the same applies to Hajj and Umrah. Again, if you want to go on behalf of your loved ones who you lost them, you know, grandparents and so forth, you go Umrah on behalf of them. You do the niyabah of Hajj on behalf of them. These are all accepted. These are all mustahab. And again, the rewards will go back to the one who did this practice and this act, and to the one who was deceased and departed this world.
Ahsan, thank you very much, Shaykhna. Thank you for the discussion. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, we'll be back next episode with a new discussion. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.